CFR Network, CFR News. Good day, good night, all. Wassalam, Niha, Shalom, all of the universal greetings. Glad to be back, fighting through COVID, unfortunately, but here, special guest, author, free thinker, Esoteric Eddie. Welcome to the broadcast, sir.
Hey, thank you for having me. Namaste.
Yes, indeed, sir. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for your time. Very much looking forward to this this sit down and conversation. Stumbled across your works via Mr. Tripley and the old tinfoil hats. So thank you, Sam, for exposing me to Esoteric Eddie. And I think through this conversation, we're gonna open up some minds. I think in some areas we're going to challenge some pre-designated thoughts and ideas, and answer some questions maybe for a lot.
Hey, absolutely. We're here to open the door to the third eye.
Indeed, indeed, which some may call the first eye.
I like that. It's the
um,
first eye.
yeah, this is it. This is it. It's all about perception, isn't it? Ultimately,
Yeah,
this wonderful journey, this tumultuous journey, and this thing we called life is it's wonderful.
I agree.
It truly is. I gave you a very brief introduction, sir. Would you like to flesh that out a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Esoteric Eddie. I'm 27 years old as of right now. I've been researching the occult, the conspiratorial, the esoteric for well over 10 years. I initially set off into my studies around the age of about 12 to 14. But prior to that, my whole life kind of has revolved around the esoteric in different ways. For example, I grew up in a Christian and Catholic home. So I was very intrigued by the biblical stories and some of the deeper mysteries that they might hold ever since I was a kid. And I've had some certain instances in my young life that kind of led me on a journey to wanting to find deeper knowledge. For example, one of the memories I have is I was about in first grade, actually in first grade. So we would go to the library every week or so to go pick out a new book. And I always loved comedy and history.
Mm-hmm.
So I was either like lingering on in the comedy section or history section. But there was this one book I remember. I don't remember the title, but it was a book on like dinosaurs, but also like on the legend of knights fighting dragons. It was kind of like this, yeah, this strange book is kind of giving you a little bit of history on the legends of dinosaurs and dragons and knights. And I remember there's this one page that was talking about the Holy Grail. And I was in like first grade and I didn't know any of that stuff, but it left an impression on me, this story about knights and dragons and the Holy Grail. And I would imagine the author was probably talking about the Knights Templar and stuff like that. But it was just that idea just impressed me and stayed in the back of my mind. And
So Eddie, in that book, I know this is going back a fair bit of time, but
yeah,
did it make that specific correlation, as you're saying, from the mythical to what we now scientifically call dinosaurs? Because as you say, dinosaurs, dragons, lizards. We look in the Old Testament; they're called many different things, and they're referring to the same potential animal or species, but it's just through time and ages we're referring to them as different things.
yeah, I don't remember if it made that distinction, but it because I don't really remember the book that much. I was like in first grade, so I was probably like 6 years old. So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
over 20 years ago. But I do remember vividly that there was dinosaurs was a part of the book, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's another section where it was talking about dragons and knights, and then a section where it mentioned the Holy Grail. And I remember this picture vividly when this illustration in the book, and it was just it was a cave which with a bunch of treasure and stuff, and in the middle of the treasure there was a cup, like a glowing cup, right, to represent
Mm.
representing the Holy Grail. But as we now know, the Holy Grail could either represent Jesus's bloodline, or it also could represent the Ark of the Covenant, as some scholars have concluded. But as a kid, I just thought it was that. I just
Yeah.
thought it's a golden cup, that was like worth, millions of dollars. But the author, he or she must have known what they were writing about. And I just thought it was fascinating that they would put all of that into, an elementary book. And so that like really influenced me. And then also, as a young kid, I'm the youngest of four kids, and one sister, two brothers. And my brothers, they've influenced me a lot when it comes to like my taste in music and fashion and stuff like that. So I grew up listening to rock and roll music, like a lot of rebellious music: Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley, and all that good stuff.
And I bet your folks wasn't liking that, sir.
They were chill with it. My parents are pretty open-minded. I
That's
mean,
cool. Being
yeah,
Christian and Catholic as well, generally those kind of households are kind of like,
yeah. It was mostly my grandparents that were like the more disciplinary when it came to the religions. Like my dad's was Catholic, my mom's was Christian, but my parents, they were like more liberal, more open-minded. My dad, being a Catholic, actually, what's strange about him, he's a practicing Catholic, but he was never pushy about it on us ever. It was always up to us if we wanted to go to church with him. And on my dad, he knows the Bible, he reads it, but he's never ever like tried to push it on us or anything. He's just always taught us how to be responsible, how to
yes,
actually live in this world.
indeed. And I think that that's a key for parents to do, is to not, I mean, you grow your children up in the ways which you think is going to be the best way and conducive way for them to survive within society, giving them spiritual or religious rights where possible. But as you say, the forcing the dogma, that's where you can lead to strange places.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, my parents, they followed in their parents' footsteps, right? My parents are from a dying breed. I'm even, surpassing this new generation. This Gen, what do they call it, Gen Z and stuff. So they come from an old world, so they were just following in their parents' footsteps. But even them, not now their older age, are starting to like open up and kind of question their beliefs. Like my mom, for example, a while back, she was kind of, they like to travel a lot, and she was like, "Hey, Eddie, like, isn't it weird how there's pyramids everywhere? Like,
Mm,
what's up with this?" So they know what's up. They know what the conspiracies are out there. They just stick to their tradition, their family tradition, because of their parents. But I kind of started to branch off from that, but still have that as a core, as a
or value.
default belief system.
Hmm.
Yeah. But
Which is strong. It's strong to have how do you say, a foundation, because if you don't have a foundation, how can you build the knowledge base and your experiences on top of anything? You've got nothing to hold you and keep you solid.
yeah, I think it's good. Like I just, no matter what I learn, I mean, I'm influenced by all the things I learn and research, and I kind of handpick things that resonate with me. But no matter what, I just always have that default Christian, moralistic perception of things. But I try to look outside of that. I try to be unbiased in my research and how I live my life. But I can't get away from, the core indoctrination
Mm.
that was given to me as a child.
And do you find, or have you found through your research, that maybe parts of your early, some would say indoctrination, which you've kind of thought, no, that's silly, that you've actually been able to confirm and say, actually, you know what, based upon me looking at other ancient manuscripts and texts, this actually does make sense. There's correlation here. I can actually find links to make this, right.
Yeah, well, with Christianity in particular, what I've realized and how I perceive it now is it's only one part of the human history.
Hmm.
I don't view any religion, especially the one that I grew up in, as the end all be all belief system.
Yes.
I view humanity as a whole family. It's easy for us to think that our nation matters the most, or the country we live in matters the most, the religion we're part of matters the most. It's a very narrow-minded way to think, but I try to like envision the whole world, even though I haven't seen it all or been everywhere. I can imagine it, and I try to resonate with the entire population, because really we live on a small planet. This is a very small planet, and there's really not that many people, even though we are told that it's overpopulation and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a small family, so every religion to me is just a part of the actual human history, and the story that is being told. And for example, Islam, what I've come to find fascinating about Islam is that it mentions Jesus in the Quran, and that Abraham is actually the patriarchal father of Islam as well.
Yes, indeed. Ibrahim, the upright one, and Isa and Moshe, all throughout the early surahs, they are mentioned, and it always leads back to some particular words, which I always quote. It always says to go and follow the upright ways of Ibrahim or Moshe. Now, as
Yeah,
you said, that is a Tanakh Torah figure from a slightly different part of Northeast Africa, or you could say the Middle East, depending on the Suez Canal, etc. Um, there's a blatant connection. The three Abrahamic faiths, they're just in slight different interpretations of the same thing in essence.
exactly. Exactly. So that's just, now my mind is just opened up to the fact that, we're all one family. It's all one history, right? It's all the same history. It's just Earth's history.
Mhm.
It's just being told from different continents or different perceptions. But yeah, so I mean, growing up and listening to all this rebellious, rock and roll music like Pink Floyd, and I had this anti-establishment attitude all throughout my grade school years. And as you mentioned earlier, 9/11, for me, it wasn't really that big of a wake-up call yet, because I was in third grade when it happened. And but I do remember it
Yeah.
happening, and I, for some reason, remember not trusting the government after that. Like, I don't know where I heard it, but I remember thinking that George Bush was just like this evil dude because of 9/11. And so all through elementary, I had that anti-establishment viewpoint,
Yeah.
and actually that's where I started to develop my skills as a writer too. Was in elementary. I always loved writing. It started off with started off with fiction. I loved writing fictional stories, and then in middle school I got into like hip hop, and that just opened my mind even more with anti-establishment views, and
Mm.
also ancient history, because I was listening to like underground hip hop, like Immortal Technique, Jedi Mind
Oh,
Tricks.
yes. The good stuff.
Yeah, so those guys do a good job of dropping knowledge and opening the mind. And of course, I started getting into some cannabis and psychedelic mushrooms at that age, in late middle school, early high school, which just started to blow up my mind to other perceptions of reality
Yeah.
altogether. And then right around early high school is when I really started to dive into certain books, documentaries, having other experiences in life. Like
Mhm.
I met my first Freemason in middle school before I knew what they were. He was a on-site staff member, and he was in charge of the Saturday school. So one time I was in Saturday school with another kid, for being bad or whatever, and he was a really cool guy. Everybody liked him, and he always had this big fat gold ring on, and it was a Freemason ring, and I didn't know what they were at the time. But in Saturday school, and he was from Ireland, heavy Irish accent, Mr.
Ah,
McCreary.
okay.
Yeah, and he was rich too. Like he was. I think he was a volunteer staff member, so he would just kind of like cruise around, and whenever a teacher was sick or somebody needed
Yeah.
help, he would just jump in. So he was just doing it out of the love. I don't know what his story was, but he was rich dude, always pulling up in classic cars. Everybody liked him. He
Mm.
he he did, with the kids. We liked him because he let you curse. He didn't mind if you cursed. He just said, "Don't do it around the ladies and stuff. Be mindful about cursing." So in Saturday school, he starts telling us a story about the ring. He's like, I'm a part of this order called the Freemasons, going all the way back to ancient times. And he says that in Ireland, that his priest, which I'm assuming was the head of the lodge, he said my priest when showed me around all these ancient lodges and dungeons where there's skeletons to this day and all this stuff. And he said,
Mm.
yeah, and he said when his priest was dying, that he gave him the ring and told him, Mr. McCreary, if anybody tries to steal this ring from you, they will die.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was my first time, interacting or learning about the Freemasons, and then also another early event that really changed my mind was when my grandpa, who used to be a pastor, but then went through some troubled times and then kind of left the church,
Mhm.
uh, told me that he had seen a UFO once, and I was like 9 years old when this happened, 8 or 9 years old when he told me this. So that also kind of like opened my mind, and to hear my grandpa, who was on my mom's side of the Christian family, tell me that aliens are real and all this stuff. So all throughout my life I was having these instances and experiences, and after throughout high school as well, I got into my studies, fortified my writing skills and some other skills that I have, like graphic design, and music production. And then so after high school up until my early 20s, I went through different incarnations as an artist to try and express or educate people on the knowledge
Mm.
that I had, using my skill sets, which was writing and music and also video production. But all those different incarnations, they had their importance, their important roles in my life. But
Indeed.
but uh, I kind of transitioned, and the newest reincarnation or brand that I'm involved with now is Esoteric Eddie.
Ah, I see. So
Yeah,
yes. So you have evolved into this character and persona now
absolutely.
through growth and
Yeah,
development.
absolutely. Yeah, Esoteric Eddie. I launched the YouTube channel last December. Was in the process of writing the Lucifer Mystery Revealed book, which I also dropped last December in the past couple of years. So I started writing it early onset of the pandemic and then published it last December. So although Esoteric Eddie has been in the works the past couple of years, it was publicly launched in last December. My Instagram and the YouTube and all the other things that I'm developing now under that brand name.
Excellent. And what has been the response?
There was, you still there?
Yeah, the response,
Oh,
like, have you had, I'm pretty sure it's all been positive, but based upon the subject matter, especially your book, have you had any pushback? Because from what I've heard, you are laying some very interesting and verifiable information out. But you do have people who are very steadfast in their ways.
yeah. Interestingly, I've been getting a lot of love and support for my YouTube videos and the book. Haven't really had anybody like give me any negative comments or criticism,
That's good.
yet. But the one thing that I'm getting is like people's hesitancy towards the book because they are under the assumption that it's some kind of satanic work.
Yeah.
But I get that sometimes, like, oh, what, like Lucifer, like what is this about, like this is some satanic stuff. So I have to explain to them, like, no, dude, it's an academic perspective on the
Mm,
historicity of Lucifer.
mm.
I'm not writing from a place of a Luciferian or Satanist trying to, like, convince you that Lucifer is worth worshiping or whatever. It's a purely academic work. I'm just giving you the historical journey of how the concept of Lucifer was conceived and then progressed.
Which it needs to be done. And I haven't read the book, but from what you have broken down, which is in a microcosm, obviously, based upon the number of pages within your book, um, it lays out a very what's the best term I can use? A very formulaic path with notes. You can easily get your if you've got a good Bible with the Hebrew and then the English at the side, you can verify that. You can look at the pseudepigrapha as well. You know, I think it's good for people to sometimes take a step back from, especially if you're coming from a Christian Catholic standpoint, to take a step back from what you've been taught by your priest and your pastor and the traditions of men, and to literally do as the book says and to study to show thyself approved. And you do that by, as I say, removing the emotion from it and studying it, studying the text, studying the history that can back up the text, study other works, Flavius Josephus. There's many other different avenues. We can even look at the Gnostic side, not depending on how deep you want to go into it, like the Gnostic Church. We can look at the origins and how that all started. We can look at the astronomy or astrological ties within these manuscripts as well. It's by doing that should fill you up and give you the energy to say, actually, what I have put my life into or what I've been taught is indeed correct. Or based upon this research, you might say, no, this isn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always say it's like researching the history of the Bible and researching the stories in depth is actually doing more. It's giving you more benefit than just going to church and doing the average thing that the layman does. Right? It's like, sorry, are you there?
Yes.
Sorry, I keep getting
Now
these
don't
little
worry.
glitches. Yeah, I mean, like I always say, what it's kind of a rhetorical question, but what bad can come from knowing the truth, right? It's like a lot of Christians, they just stick to the normal script, go to church, let the priest or pastor tell you
Yeah.
what the Bible's interpretation is, and
Yeah.
just the normalcy of it. But diving deep into the historicity of the Bible and its veracity and its extra biblical sources like the Apocrypha and just all that stuff there's nothing non-Christian about that. If anything, that you are being more Christian in doing so, because you are arming yourself with real history, real facts. And what I find when I do these studies is that it brings more veracity to your belief systems, if that's what you're looking for. Like, for example, Zecharia Sitchin, the famous author who brought us the Anunnaki concept. People like to say, like, oh, like it's just they're trying to pervert the Bible by saying that God was an alien or this and that. And it's a complex situation. So if your goal is to just go to church and have a connection with God and live a peaceful, innocent life, then that's peace. But if your goal is to like actually learn historical human history, you got to look at things deeper. And I bring up Sitchin because if you read his stuff, I mean, he loves the Bible. He's got a passion for the Bible, and his work brings like immense veracity to the Bible to a degree that is hard to digest for people who aren't ready for it. But it's, again, researching and studying the in-depth historicity of biblical and religiosity makes you more of a Christian.
I would agree. I would agree, because it's like knowing, it's being told to do something, but not being told how and why you're doing it. So you're just going from A to B. There's no reasoning behind it. Oh, I just do that. Oh, well, why do you do it? Oh, because I was told to do it. So that's not a good excuse. You're going to jump off a cliff if they tell you to do that. Ah, okay. Well, no, that's a little bit different. So yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, knowledge is power. It's a cliche, but it holds so much weight. The more you can learn, the more you can know, the more you can grow as a person. And, if we're lucky, we get like 80 summers, 80 springs, 80 winters, falls.
Yeah.
When you look at it in that, that's nothing, absolutely nothing. So, it's incumbent on everybody. And you know what it is? It's incumbent on everybody to try and strive to be the best person you can and, search for the truth and knowledge. But the big juicy but is the truth comes with responsibility. And these days, Eddie, nobody wants responsibility.
Yes, that is 100% true. It is a lot of responsibility, and everybody's called to do different things in this life. I honestly don't believe that the knowledge that we speak on, right, in the esoteric or truth or community isn't for everybody. I
Mm,
mean, there are people out there that just can't handle the truth, but that doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that they're called to do something else in this life. And there are some people that just they can handle it. It just doesn't, they don't care for it. They're indifferent to it. It's like, well, it doesn't do me any good at work or in my home life. So, but for me personally, I mean, this is my life. I was called to do this. And not only was I called to do it, but I actually, when I was a kid, I prayed with all my heart to God to show me knowledge. And ever since that moment, it's just been like an ongoing surge of knowledge and experiences. So I don't, knock people down for not being able to handle the truth or not wanting to look into it because they're scared or they're indoctrinated,
mm.
because it's not for everybody. And that's why secret societies and mystics exist, because we
Uh,
we
well, elaborate on that element. When you say secret societies exist, what do you mean? Flesh that out a little bit, Eddie.
yeah, sure. Well, secret societies as we know them, right? Like whether we're talking about the Illuminati, the Rosicrucians, Freemasons, all the big
Mm,
ones, right?
yeah.
That get accused of all this evil doing in the world, which does go on. But for example, I just dropped a documentary on Esoteric Eddie TV on the actual history of the Illuminati, not like the Jay-Z is in the Illuminati type of history, not that kind of stuff.
Indeed.
But the actual, story of Adam Weishaupt, his
Yeah.
his quick rise and his quick fall. The reason the Illuminati uh, started is because at that time the church and state were so closely, held
Connected.
together,
Yes, indeed.
connected,
Hmm.
and you would be murdered. I mean, horrifically murdered, man.
Drawn and quartered and all kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane what the Inquisition did to people simply for gathering and talking, libertine ideas, which we take for granted nowadays. So in a way, what we're doing right now is like a futuristic version of the Illuminati. What the Illuminati was doing, they were utilizing Freemason forums because at that time Freemasonry was an accepted secret
Yes.
society
Free and
within.
accepted Freemasonry. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, the church and state were okay with them,
Hmm.
as long as they followed certain laws. So Adam Weishaupt and those guys used those forums, right, way before the internet, way before Discord, Reddit,
Yes.
Instagram. Those were the forums that the people were going to, and there were some sinister things being said and plotted, but again, some of it was just talking about freedom,
Hmm.
and talking about ideals of that kind of stuff. So when I say that that's the reason why secret societies exist, is because not only do we have to deal with the governments, even to this day,
Yeah.
that will kill us, imprison us, but there are also just people, citizens who, in hearing, certain knowledge, like for example, like the Anunnaki, right? You can't just go up to any person and just start talking about the Anunnaki. So, and I have a personal experience actually where I did that um, to this Christian dude who's a part of a cult here in San Diego. I mean, they're not really a cult, but people view them that way, or I guess they could be.
Cult in a positive term or cult in a negative term?
I would say negative. I
Okay.
mean, but quick brief story on that. So here in San Diego, there's a restaurant called the Yellow Deli. It's ran by a Messianic Amish Christian organization. Uh, that's the term that I put together. I don't really know what they call themselves, but they're Amish-like, and and at the restaurants, they're like these very rustic Amish-like restaurants. All the workers are a part of this Christian organization that live on a farm, and they work at the restaurant for free. It's a part of their duties. And
Yes, I think I know. There's about 5 offsprings of this Amish group. But yeah, continue. Sorry, I think I know who you're talking about.
yeah, so me and my friend got invited to have dinner with them because I have a Hebrew tattoo, and I got into a philosophical conversation with one of the guys. He invited us to their dinner on the farm. Long story short, I'm there, and I'm having a conversation with one of the members, and I'm telling him my genuine beliefs and ideas when it comes to the Anunnaki and the terminological misunderstanding of the word Elohim. And this guy,
Which is
he's
plural, right?
yes, and so this guy is bolstering up in tears of anger,
Oh no.
holding his steak knife, looking at me like, literally telling me like, what you're saying to me it fills me full of fear and anger. And he's like, and he was just going off on me, dude. So I'm not saying that we need secret societies and that we
Mm,
need to be secretive about what we teach.
yeah.
Honestly, I think that's all silly, to be honest. I think the secret society stuff is silly and not necessary at this point. I'm
Pomp and
just saying,
ceremony a lot of times in this today's
yeah,
society.
I could not be a Freemason, man. I don't even like, going, sitting down in regular church, you know, like, so what I'm saying is we don't need to be secretive or do all these weird secret society stuff. I'm just saying that we need to be mindful about putting this stuff out to the world when we still have governments and people who are not willing to have mature conversations about knowledge and history.
Good point. Knowing your audience kind of thing. Reading,
Absolutely.
yeah, reading what's going on, and ultimately the best way to phrase it would be having discernments. Like everybody is not going to be open to have a very open, honest conversation. Sometimes it's going to be very surface level. Yeah, the weather's nice today. Your car looks nice. Shoes look nice. I'll see you later, Steve. It's going to be as surface as that. Others, they will engage in like, oh, Eddie, what new stuff are you looking into at the moment, man? You never guess what? I had a look at this, and the Earth's flat apparently. Oh, great! Let's have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I say we need to be cautious is because, I mean, my book and my job as a writer is to try to be unbiased and neutral and present facts, sure, for entertainment, to help the community out with knowledge, but ultimately, really, my fanatical goal would be to see a world where we stop debating and stop fighting over dogma.
Hmm.
So in a way, as Robert Anton Wilson put it, it's like we're in the new Inquisition. The Inquisition has just transformed to different modes, and so it is still dangerous to question the mainstream narrative, um, when it comes to either politics or religion or education. So my fanatical goal with my work, which I know I won't see in my lifetime, but hopefully I can pass the torch on to other writers and other scholars in the future, is to get the world to stop being indoctrinated and fighting and warring
Mm.
over dogma. My whole book was pretty much showing and telling you and presenting to you that Lucifer never existed in the Bible, never existed as a character, but yet that archetype holds so much power over pop culture, over religion, over people's fears. And we don't want to let go of our indoctrination. It's like, because as humans, as people, we have this innate mechanism to explain life through good and
Oh,
evil.
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
you
Well,
know
at the same time, I mean, it's the yin and yang, isn't it? There is a duality of good and evil, um, which is expressed, 365, 24 hours a day.
Yeah, yeah, and that I don't deny. You know, that is a higher truth which the mystics of all ages have tried to convey to us. You know, this dualistic force of nature, and some would say once you reach higher levels of spiritualism, you know, or enlightenment, that you realize that the dualistic force is actually one force which has to act like it's two forces,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, I mean, good and evil, right and wrong
Mm.
start to blend in certain areas.
And you get that gray sort of area which people really like to live in. Oh well, I'm not hot, I'm not cold, I'm kind of just in between.
Yeah,
Mm, okay, okay. That might be fine for the moment, but
yeah,
you want to be in a definite place, either be hot or cold. More, you don't want to just be constantly in the middle. Just, oh, well, I'll just hang out here, kind of in no man's land.
yeah. No, I mean, I think that everybody has to face a certain battle in their life. We don't know what that battle is, but I think everybody has a time in their life where they have to choose what side they're on. You know, they have to choose what master they're serving, whether that's spiritual, political, or just emotional. You know, but we all have a time in our life where something real happens, and then in that real moment, you find out which master you're serving.
Mm. And that could be the break of, unfortunately, many people. And for some people, it's that eureka, that light bulb moment. Oh, sugar, this stuff was real. Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. I definitely know I'm on the right path rather than being a lefty kind of thing.
Yeah, and I get this question sometimes, you know, pretty frequently, you know, like how do you know you're being a good person, or how do you know you're good and not evil, or whatever? And that's a complex thing to answer. But what I do know for sure is the difference between spiritualism and occultism. For me, spiritualism is trying to take hold and control of your personal reality, your heaven, your hell. That's spirituality.
Hmm.
And in spirituality, we help guide others. We don't force them. Yeah, we don't force them, but we help guide them if they seek it from us to also find that power in controlling their personal reality, their heaven, their hell.
Mm.
Occultism is different. Occultism uses rudimentary metaphysical sciences for personal gain, to influence the collective reality. So whether that's evil, that's good or bad, that's a deeper question that I don't claim to be the authority to answer,
Well,
but I definitely know the difference between spiritualism and occultism.
you eloquently explain that. Um, I think it's the pardon self. I think it's the intent. If you're talking on the latter, what you said about um, moving the masses, if you're moving the masses towards a, a point of goodness, which is goodness in regards to it benefits everybody, then I would say that that's been quite equally yoked of sorts. If you're doing that so your status can be elevated, or somebody else's, where it's on evil, it's not a fair exchange, then we're talking um bad, or we're talking, and let's define evil, or let me define evil. Evil would be if I was to go, no, let's not use myself. Let's not talk anything speak anything into existence. If somebody was to go out and physically harm multiple people, that's evil. If one person, that same person harmed themselves, that's they're doing something wrong, but to themselves, that's not evil. That's just bad. There's something wrong with that person per se. Um, that would be the way I would define evil. Hurting or doing something to others. If it's only affecting yourself, that can't be evil.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a universal understanding. Um, but of course, in this crazy world we live in today, it's like people are trying to tell us that certain things aren't bad or certain things aren't evil. But I would say as long as we always keep that, foundational understanding, we'll be all right, and we can move forward as a global community, understanding that, yeah, I mean, if you're harming other people, like, that's evil. But
Hmm.
it's, if you're not harming others, but you're harming yourself, I mean, that's yeah, as you said, that's wrong. It's strange,
Yeah.
why you would want to do that to yourself, but yeah, we are complex people with complex reasons.
Very much so. And when you get social engineering that comes into place via, social media, by the television, by billboards, by fashion, quote unquote, fashion designers who have, turned the whole fashion industry upside down in the last 20 years. It's a very interesting world that we are living in. It's for people of a younger age, I think it's very, very difficult for them to navigate. Very difficult.
Yeah, that's a whole nother level to this too, is because the indoctrination aspect of it, right? You might think that you're a good person, but you might actually be in the wrong in certain ways, because you're being led by evil people,
Hmm.
right? So that's a whole nother aspect of this, and that's why knowledge and mystics such as ourselves are very important, because we bring that reflection to the world, we bring that reflection to people, and like in the Plato's cave analogy,
Hmm.
trying to take them out of the cave and show them the truth, and then they can make the distinction for themselves. Do you want to continue living how you were, thinking you were good, thinking that you were all right, but really living in a dystopian mind control system? Or do you want to go over here and live in a world that's going to also be as equally as difficult, but at least you know that you're making your own choices?
Yes. Rather than constantly being told, yay, left, go right, lock your doors, close your windows, two masks.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, man, it was the greatest heist of all time.
it, yeah, and the effects are still unfortunately being felt. Huge rises in abuse, drug abuse, physical abuse, parents, breaking up, divorces, suicides, starvation, and now they're talking this stupid stuff over in the Eastern Bloc with the unfortunate situation that's going on over there in Ukraine and all that.
Yeah.
And when you obviously study and you look at the history of this place and you look at the pipelines of gas and the fertilizer that comes from this place, and you think, and you look at the neo-Nazi rise over there, and you're thinking, could there be more to this than the media's making out?
Oh yeah, there always is. There's always more to it. Yeah, and that's I never trust the first headline story ever. There's always something deeper to be said there. And yeah, I mean, I'm over here seeing people, support Ukraine's, and all this nonsense, and it's like we don't even support our own people out here who are struggling.
This is it.
You
Like,
know?
how about world? How about for the whole world? And there's we look after and I'm not this sounds quite insular, but we have to be insular to a point. When the United States of America, North, Central, and South has no homeless people, and everybody is okay and has a house and can work, and this is mimicked across the world, then we can start interfering and saying, okay, we're going to send people over there to help because there's some kind of conflict going on. There's people are homeless. The people are dying. There's people who can't afford medication and stuff.
Yes. Yeah, and it just kind of goes back to that idea of occultism and who's ruling the world, because people just wake up and just it's accept the system.
Yeah.
We wake up and we accept the status quo, we accept the system, and we go along with it. But this isn't the way life has to be. But that's why there is a battle to a certain extent, because it's in the battle is the battle for reality. If enough people got together and organized and structure in a structural way and actually moved up the political ranks and or whatever, however they wanted to attack it, we
Hmm.
could shift the reality, fighting fire with fire. I mean, if we were to use the system against itself, and we would do it politically, we would rise up politically. And people have tried that time and time again, I know,
Yes.
and failed over and over. And we're
Mm.
stuck here in America with the two-party system. And
Yeah. I think, well, unfortunately, that system has been mimicked across the world. Everywhere you go, it's a two-party system, conservative, Democrat, or Labour conservative. It's the same. In my humble opinion, the whole thing needs to be destroyed and we start
yeah,
again.
yeah, I have similar views. Actually, one of the incarnations as an artist that I had before Esoteric Eddie, I had a clothing brand for a while, by the name of Killgov.
Ah, I like that.
Killgov, yeah, I was like making beanies and shirts and stuff, kind of like anti-establishment stuff.
Yes.
Um, so that was actually like the philosophy
Mm,
behind Killgov is like, we just need to destroy the entire system
yeah.
so that we can rebuild from the ashes, like like a phoenix or whatever. But um, and of course that's like a wide, a crazy goal,
Yeah.
to have to do that. I mean, but that's just like the philosophy. I don't. I mean, if to actually achieve that would be to be wild,
But
to
Eddie,
completely.
if we just think on the most simplistic level, do you know how easy it would be to do that?
Yeah. No, I mean, theoretically speaking, it's
It's
possible.
it's so possible, and the easiest way to do it would just be non-compliance. All we need is 60% of the people just not to comply. All the government workers, everybody, okay, for 3 days or even for 7 days. I don't think he would even take 7 days just to say we're
Yeah.
not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was younger, I mean, I started doing Kill Gov and stuff like that in like high school. And when I was younger, I would go to protests. Like I went to the Occupy Wall Street stuff and all that. I was a little more aggressive and a little bit more militant in
Hmm.
my approach to anti-establishment.
Yeah.
But what I quickly realized after going to protests and getting involved in community, stuff like that, I quickly realized that the elite are way more organized than
Yes.
we are, and we suffer from the same ills that they do because we're all people. Betrayal, jealousy,
Hmm.
ulterior motives,
Yeah.
this and that. Even within my own friend groups, it was hard to organize and hard to get people to be serious, and so what I quickly realized is that, for me personally, I didn't want to attack it from an aggressive standpoint,
Hmm.
because ultimately I would have to be ready to die as a martyr. And I just was like, I don't even know if I want to die for these people around me. It's like,
Yes.
like I rather they don't even care.
Mm.
So it's like I had to battle with that for some time. Like, man, I see the world suffering, and like I
You want to do so much.
yeah, you want to do so much. You want to tear down the government, destroy the government, kill the government, kill gov. Like I had the same motto as what you just mentioned. Like the philosophy was destroy the system, rebuild anew.
Hmm.
Which was the philosophy, but it was actually also a utopian goal to actually see that, come to fruition. Maybe not in my lifetime, but some future lifetime. But now I understand that, people actually want to be
Yeah.
indoctrinated. People are love the fear-based system that they're in. So it's the battle is way different than I thought. The battle isn't even just with the system. The battle is with, as people say, the sheeple, people
Mm.
who want to stay in the system. So to a certain extent, it's like, man, who is the enemy? And so for what I've progressed it in my personal life to the point where the enemy is myself. So the kill gov's philosophy is turn inward. There, I'm not here to kill the external gov.
Uh-huh.
I'm here to kill the internal gov.
Hmm.
Because if we can't even deconstruct our own selves and enlighten ourselves and become the people that we want to see,
Mm.
then how do we expect to change the world? So
Externally. Yeah, it starts from self, always starts from self, building a better self. Then externally, as I always say, it's that ripple effect. And you may not see it directly, but your neighbor might be sitting, oh, flipping out, I've been seeing Eddie, and he's like, what's he doing? Might come over, hey Eddie, what's going on, man? I see you, you got like a little glow about you and stuff, man. What's your secret, man? Tell me what the secret is. Oh, well, come in here, you got an hour, and you tell him, and then it starts to float and it starts to float out. And as you'll be out, and light always attracts light, and you'll bump into someone who's got a very similar sort of mindset, or like, wow, interesting that we met at this place. Flipping out, we're very similar, kind of like.
Yeah, and that's what it's about, is just finding your tribe, finding your community, and knowing your role and your position in that community. Some people are going to be natural leaders, some people are going to be natural farm workers, or natural healers. So knowing your role and finding your tribe and your community is important. And because right now we exist in the globalist government, whether we like it or not. We exist, we're a part of their system. We're already a cog in their wheel. So why not try to be conscious and go the extra step to try and create our own communities, try to start our own political systems, or whatever your personal goal is. I mean, some people's goal is purely spiritual, right? Like the monks who go out there and live in solitude for their entire lives, and I believe that their prayers are actually what's saving a lot of us in this world. The monks, the mystics, the spiritualists, the true spiritualists, the people who are dedicating their lives to meditation, to prayer, to astral projection, to utilizing vibratory mantras to uplift the vibrations of the environment and the people's hive minds. That stuff, I think, is immensely important, and
Power.
it's actually saving us
to
a certain extent.
It plays a part. It all plays a part. It's that healing, positive energy that's being put out by, as you say, by the right people, because you've got people with those titles doing the weirdest bloody stuff, the strangest things. But we don't necessarily hear about the ones who are doing the good stuff. So it swings and roundabouts, unfortunately. Swings and roundabouts, and a whole load of space monkeys in the mix, telling a load of lies, discouraging people to really think outside of the box. Because as the listeners will be listening back to this, they'll be most likely in a box, inside of a box, which ultimately is their house. And then they might leave their house to go into their car, which is another box with wheels on it, to drive somewhere else to their place of work, which is another box, to go into the office, which is another box. So everywhere they go, they're in boxes. How do they get out of the box, Eddie?
Oh man, that's the question. They got to kill the gov within. But yeah, see, that's a whole nother level. It's like there's so many levels to it, right? I mean, just the architecture that we live in, and so people are walking around feeling certain ways, like negatively, like depression, anxiety, suicidal, just lethargic, and all these different things. And they might just think that's how they are. They're like, well, that's how I am. That's how I am. But they don't even know that it's the architecture, it's the food, it's the technology, that they're surrounded by, that's damaging their eyes, their retinas, the radiation that's messing up their gut. There's so many levels to this, man. And that's why I think, again, it goes back to just realizing what it is that your role in this life is. What skills and passions do you personally have? And then also realizing that you need to take control of your mind, your body. You need to take control of your mind and your health. Because, I mean, unfortunately, we live in the system. So unless you're ready to become a complete hermit, a complete monk, and leave all of this behind and go live out in Shambhala or Tibet or what have you,
Mm-hmm.
and focus solely on building a human connection between you and God, an actual human connection between you and God or the creator or source, and
Yes.
fortifying that and then projecting that outward through prayer, meditation, and vibratory sciences. Unless you're wholly prepared to do that, you're going to have to live in the system in little ways, right? We all need groceries, we all
Mm-hmm.
need to pay our bills, and this and that. But we can at least learn to navigate through this more consciously, so that when we start feeling sick, we don't take the wrong medicines, or we don't blame it on the wrong things, and we realize that we're feeling sick because of the foods we've been eating, or the
Mm.
or the habits we've been having the past couple months. And and not just with our health, but our mental health, and also our financial health, right? People are out here walking around not knowing how to move forward in life, just
Yeah.
constantly stuck with these dead end box jobs,
Mm-hmm.
not realizing that they can use their passions and their skills, and build communities, and find financial freedom as well. And all
Yes.
those things will help us individually and as a community to fight back, and bring more light to this world, and leave the torch for the next generation to take that further.
Because ultimately, that what else can we do but to try and leave this plane of existence, which we were, born into, a little bit better, or trustfully, a lot better than how we inherited it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what something I frequently say is like, the purpose here is just to leave this place better than we found it. You
Mm.
know, people are always looking for purpose. It's like, I mean, man, I mean, at the very base level of it, it's just leave this place better than you found it, and trust me, you have done the greatest thing you can for the next generation.
Agreed. Agreed, sir. Agreed. Um, the last two questions as we wind this conversation down, sir. Um, have you had fun today?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a good time sitting back and talking knowledge.
Definitely, definitely. Always brings a smile to my face. Always brings a smile to my face. Very last one for you, sir. Please tell us who you are, but do not tell us your name.
Mm, okay, caught me off guard with that one. So give me a second.
All good, all good. Take your time.
I am the mystic from the West Coast of the beast system in United States of America, trying to free my fellow man and fellow woman through my skills and passions of writing and producing content for a better world.
Excellent, excellent. Please do throw, pardon self, all of your social medias, and I will make sure I put them in the link below.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Esoteric Eddie, and YouTube at Esoteric Eddie TV.
Excellent,
And if you'd
excellent.
like to buy the new book, The Lucifer Mystery Revealed, which again is an academic perspective on the historicity of Lucifer, and I give you my conclusion on who Lucifer actually is or was, you can get it on Amazon under The Lucifer Mystery Revealed by Eduardo Fidencio Cano. That's my government name. But if you don't want to support Bezos and his craziness, you can hit me up on Instagram, and I can send you out a signed copy if you'd like.
Excellente. And I'm sure you got international shipping all sorted on that there.
I do. However, I've been having trouble with Australia recently.
Okay.
Um, but reach out, and we'll try and figure something out.
Excellent, excellent. Well, trustfully, everybody enjoyed the conversation. Make sure you go over and support, check out the social medias, definitely check out the YouTube channel. Um, if you're an Amazon person, by all means, I would suggest do one better, go direct and get a signature on that book as well. It'll be worth a load of money soon.
Crypto.
Definite, man, definite. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend.